morning. This is Saturday, August the 27th, 2021.
Yeah, 27.
And we're here again with Vincent Randall, who is the cultural director for the Apache Nation here in the Verde Valley. And he is also our legacy recipient, our very first one for 2021. So he's obligated himself to share his life with us here in Clarkdale, as he was born and raised here. So Vincent today is going to speak about the inception of Little League, or the formation of Little League in Clarkdale, which he was, of course, a part of. All right, Vincent?
Good morning, good day, and it is a good summer day. This discussion came up concerning the ball fields known as the Sala Mangini today. But basically, when Mr. Clark set up the town of Clarkdale and to take care of his workers, I thought it was a pretty innovative thing for someone in those days to take care of their workers. It wasn't just an employment situation, but I think to me, it seemed to be that if you can keep your workers happy, then you got a lot of production. And I don't know what his thinking was, but anyway, that's how the ball field that I know of, that's today is known as the Sala Mangini ball field, was done by Mr. Clark when he set up the town. Just as much as he set up the auditorium and the men's lounge and the women's lounge over here in Clarkdale, and all types of facilities that he did. And as the years went by, the ball field was used quite a bit, I'm sure. There was also another baseball field that was developed, and I still have recollections of that, and that's where the Clarkdale Jerome School is today. There was a ball field there. Now that one was for baseball. The one that was known today as the Sala Mangini ball field, I'm pretty sure was set up for softball. But the one at the Clarkdale Jerome School was, there was actually a little, I guess you could say, not a stadium, but a grandstand. It had a roof over it, and that's when, in those days, the smelters and the mining towns and the companies had baseball teams. And I would probably call it semi-pro, might be known as semi-pro, or known as what would probably be Class A baseball. And they recruited ball players, gave them a job, and they also played baseball and so forth. And so that, anyway, that's how, to me, the ball fields were developed and set up. I don't know exactly how this whole operation about the Little League organization and how it really came about. I know some central people that were involved with it at the beginning, but I can't give you the exact. Would have to do some more research, some more documentation on who really thought up the idea of introducing the Little League baseball, which was developed, of course, in Pennsylvania. And spread out west. But the beginnings was back in 1950 here in Arizona. And I know for a fact that the first teams to come out of this after whatever discussion took place and organization started was that the beginnings were with a team from Prescott, and they called it Iron King, which was at that time the Humboldt and Mayer was a mining town, and they were known as Iron King. And there was a team out of there, Jerome and Clarkdale, 4 teams that were the beginning of the Little League organization. I know that for the town of Clarkdale, Father Driscoll, I forgot what his first name was, but Father Driscoll was one of the main participants, along with the people that were the merchants here, the Wambackers, and of course at that time, Mr. Selma, Joe Selma, had the store here that we're in today, and other figures in the town. And with their organization and help together, they sponsored the team. And Clarkdale was known as the Clarkdale Merchants because the merchants were the ones that supported the team. Now the other towns, I don't know exactly who supported them. Like Jerome, you would have to talk to some people that were at that time in 1950, or at Prescott, and I'm sure Iron King was supported by the mining industry there. And Prescott, I don't know. I did not play in 1950, but I knew about it. I heard about it. There were a number of our tribal members that were playing. People like Moody Bonahaw and Charles Bonahaw and the brothers, the Bonahaw brothers, and they were playing ball for the team. The coach that was coaching the Clarkdale team was Steve O'Brien. Now the O'Brien family they go way back. They're all gone today, but their property was right there down on the river, where the old bridge used to cross the river on your way to Toothwood and Tapco. Just on the north side of the bridge, there's a place there that's the O'Brien homestead. And there were a number of O'Brien brothers. One of them was Steve. Steve was a teacher, Steve O'Brien. And he was the first coach for the beginning. Up in Jerome was the coach for the first team there that I know for sure was Don Snyder. Don Snyder was a football coach and teacher for Jerome High School. And he was their first coach. And I don't know about Prescott and Iron King, I don't remember that. And they had their season and had their beginnings that whoever won the league then went to the West Coast. And I remember the playoff city was Santa Monica, California. And if they won there, then they went back to Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and played in the Little League World Series. Then in 1951, that's when I started playing. And things changed a little bit. The Verde Valley organized itself to have their own league. That now we had teams comprised of Jerome, Clarkdale, Cottonwood, and Camp Verde. And then on the other side of the hill, they organized themselves and had other teams, and I believe Prescott, Skull Valley, which is a little town west of Prescott, and Iron King, and Chino Valley. I think they formed their own league over there. So in 1950, we had our own league here in the Verde Valley and play. And the coaching staff changed. Jerome, a man by the name of Burley Thornton, stepped up and began coaching the team in Jerome. And somehow, I believe through Father Driscoll and his recruitment and so forth, brought in Jim Thornton as the Clarkdale coach. And in Cottonwood, the beginnings were, of course, a number of people. I remember Mr. Black. For the sake of me, I tried to remember his first name. But he used to own a gas station right there near what we call the Cottonwood Feed and Seed Store, which the Pattersons used to run. But there used to be a gas station right there. There's a hamburger joint there today. But Mr. Black used to run that. And then there was an electrician by the name of Bayless Edens that had a place there on Main Street there. But out of the people that, like them, that were working, the coach that coached the team was a guy named Jim Barrett. And he was I used to remember what profession he had, but now seeing the movements. And then Camp Verde came up with a team. And for the sake of me, I'm trying to remember the man's name, but one of their coaches back in those days was, I believe he was a bus driver, and he was kind of handicapped. And I remember he used to use one crutch, crutch himself around. And so then we began a league play on this side of the hill. And I started playing ball for Jim Thornton. And a number of us from the reservation, people like Orville Lewis, Kenneth Hood, and a number of the Indian boys we would play. And again, with the support of the Clarkdale Merchants. I think that first year that they had the Little League, they really didn't have true uniforms. I wasn't really around, so I was trying to remember what they looked like, but then the next year we did get uniforms. And of course, the company, Phelps Dodge was still here, and Phelps Dodge was a big supporter. And as we played ball, the facilities that were offered, of course, we played ball down on the Sal Lamborghini field. And the company, it was like playing, to me it was like playing real ball, because the company, not only did they fix the fields for us, they, before game days, they used to roll it so that it would be nice and flat. I think the roller, for a while there, was still down there where the old mechanic place is down there, the old gas station. That roller there, they used to roll the field, flatten it out for us, line it, put up all the PA system, and then there's a house right there in the corner. The company gave that up as a clubhouse for us. And it was almost like playing in the pros. Our uniforms were there, and after every game, we changed there, and they took it to wash their uniforms for us, and had a lounge in there. We had sofas, chairs, relax before the game, dress, and then come out, running out on the field. And it was a big thing in those days. We played to pack houses because a lot of people were still around here. And of course, the rivalry between us and Jerome was a big rivalry. It was the big game of the week. And I remember my father was a hard rock miner. He worked in the mine in Jerome, and he used to say that people were betting right and left, back and forth, to see who was going to win the game between us and Jerome. And and we came out and we played ball. I remember one of our umpires was a big old tall guy. I remember his name was Quisenberry. And he was a good umpire. And so those are the kind of facilities that they offer. We played. We played ball. We traveled. And to this day, I coach for many years. I've coached baseball, basketball, flag football, all of these things. And some of the philosophy of coaching and so forth, I learned a lot through the years. And the beginning was with Jim Thornton. Jim Thornton, if anything, he ever taught us that we were as good as anybody, anywhere around. He said, you guys are not hillbillies. You guys got talent, and you can play with the best. So Jim Thornton, as a coach, encouraged us and taught us, and we played the best. The 2 years I played, in 1951 and 52, we played the best. We played the Phoenix All-Stars in 1951, the best Phoenix had to offer, because he wanted us to play the best. They beat us 3-1 in Phoenix, but we came back to Prescott and played them on a neutral field to a packed house. We beat them 3-1. Yes. And and then, of course, Father Driscoll and all of the merchants here had great support for us and took care of us. And they supplied the bats, all the increments that you need to play baseball. It was a great experience. Jerome was the same way, Cotwood and Cavalry. And at the end of the season, then an all-star team was picked from this league. And then we went over to Prescott, and by that time they had a couple leagues going there also. And whoever won that tournament in Prescott then got to go to Santa Monica. When I was 12, we almost beat Prescott to go, but sad to say, well, I remember we lost by 1. But those were the years that Little League Baseball was a big thing in this town, and in Jerome, and in Cottonwood, and Camp Verde. And if anything also was that through this competition with each other, we got to know each other, and we became friends. You know, we talk about rivalry, and rivalry is really something back in those days. Cottonwood and Clarkdale had a big one. Clarkdale had another one with Cottonwood, and so forth. But through this competition against each other, we got to know each other. And I grew up with a lot of these guys, and we became friends through the years. And we go back. I know there's a gentleman that's been an educator for years, and he started playing in Cottonwood, and we've known each other all these years. And he told his son one day, who now is retired from being the educator himself, but Freddie Howe, I knew him as Freddie Howe. Yeah, he became a good friend of mine. Then his son, Danny Howe, and he was telling his son, he said, I've known this guy forever, ever since he threw me out at first base. So, and you know, you go back, there's names like Trammell's, Bob Love. I remember a catcher in Jerome that, oh wow, he was, Randall was his name. That guy could, on a squat, throw a ball, throw you out as you're trying to steal second base. Jerome, that was something else. We played at the old 500 level, and boy, that was a rough field. They never took care of it or anything. There were rocks and everything. And as I said, the rivalry was intense. I remember when I was 12 years old, my last year I played at, we beat Jerome in Jerome. And we had to have a police escort on there. Yeah. And guess who was the policeman and his force led us out of there? It was old Buck Snoddy. And Buck Snoddy was one of the policemen here for Clarkdale for many years after coming out of Jerome. Man, I tell you, we come out of that town, I remember rocks were flying at us. And we traveled, kids, on our traveling bus. There was a guy named Jim Haskins who was worked for the Dodge dealership in Cottonwood, and they stepped up and always through him offered us a Dodge pickup, and that's how we traveled. We used to pile in the back of a pickup and travel to games, and that was because of Jim Haskin and his connection. Jim Haskin lived here for years and died here. And so that Little League was a big thing in those days. And then as the years went by, it just kind of died out. And for some reason or not, the Verde Valley Little League organization quit being part of the national organization. And I always thought it was something that the kids missed out on because they didn't get to go on. They played ball here in the Verde Valley and stuff, but then when it came time for them to compete in a tournament and try to get back to Williamsport, Pennsylvania, they never had that opportunity. And there were a lot of good teams that played. And I know why, because after all those years, I played ball. I played a couple ball years, Little League. Then I played American Legion ball. I played a lot of baseball. And then after, when I went off to college, and in the summertime, I started coaching myself. I started coaching Little League teams. Yeah. It's and we weren't part of the national organization, so. And anyway, that's kind of gives you an insight of how Little League baseball came to here in the Verde Valley, especially with Clarkdale. And Clarkdale was one of the teams, as I said. Prescott, Iron King, Jerome, and Clarkdale started, and the coach was Mr. O'Brien, and then Jim Thornton stepped up. And then later on, there were coaches like gosh, I'm forgetting now, but there was a guy named Tommy. Oh man. So the and Father Driscoll, he was a great inspiration. Always ready to step up and help. And the Wambacher brothers, both Dan and Joe. Dan owned the gas station. Joe was the newsstand. And Joe Selna here. All of these guys. And the company, Phillips Dodge. Anyway, that's the story of the Little League in Clarkdale, Arizona.
Would you mind if any of these people could ask a question of you?
Sure.
So I'm Felicia Coates, and
my hearing is just terrible today. I can't hear too good.
okay,
Yes.
I'll try to speak up. What years did you coach?
What years did I coach?
Mhm.
Oh, I started coaching, assisting coaches when I was 14,
Oh, really?
and then I started coaching the teams myself, probably around 1950, 59. And I coached cotton teams first, and then Dan Bright, the mayor, came to me one day and he said, "We need you in Clarkdale. You're a Clarkdale resident. You've lived in Clarkdale. You played in Clarkdale. Come home." So I moved 2 miles back to home and coached at Little League. And also under Dan Bright, he was a supporter. Of course, he had boys playing baseball. But he did move the Little League field from down here up to the football field, and set the football field up and used the stands and everything. And we played baseball up there. And that was under Dr. Dan Bright, who was the mayor at that time, and got the town to set up the field for us up there. And that's where was my coaching days in Clarkdale. We played up there.
Vincent, you were outstanding coach at Clarkdale Elementary School. Can you tell us the various titles over the years and the sports that you coached while you were
I'm
there?
sorry?
You and your teams received a lot of awards, division awards, state awards. For basketball is what I'm thinking, but I don't know if there have been other teams. Could you tell us about your career at Clarkdale School?
Well, I think, like I said, Jim Thornton, his philosophy taught me a lot. And then when I got in high school, I owe a lot to Rusty Winslow. No, his name was Felix Winslow. He was a guy that grew up in Jerome and went off to the war, came back. Then he became a teacher and a coach and coached at Peoria High School first. And then when Jerome and Clarkdale consolidated, then he came to what then is known as Mingus High School. And Bob DeWalt did also. Bob DeWalt came first, and then Bob DeWalt, I believe, went into taking the leadership of schools and so forth. So Coach Winslow came, and the two gentlemen that I learned a lot from, there's the physical and side of coaching, of course, getting in shape, the fundamentals, and the skills and so forth. But if anything that that's I consider that the 100% part of the coaching and so forth. But what's beyond there, to me, is the most important part. That is to inspire your athletes to go beyond giving 100%. And that's what Jim Thornton and Coach Winslow, and there was another coach named Tom Cantrell, and even Coach Wright, that used to coach in Cottonwood. I learned that from them, that inspiration of giving and sacrificing and truly doing the best you can. And that's always been what has been in my life, learning from them. And I try to impart that to my athletes that I've associated with through the years. And, the first junior high state basketball championship that my team won in 1980, I only had 8 boys. But those 8 boys played their hearts out. They're champions. And that's what it's always been about, is that inspire your players to go beyond, and also to always play in a situation where that you don't go beyond what you can do, because you're not out there it's not for your glory, it's for them. It's for them. I've always wanted my ball players to walk off the court, the field, whatever it is, to feel that satisfaction of doing a good job. That they gave it their best and leave it on the field. All the way. I've coached all the way through high school, coached a girls team. I coached with Coach Ryder at Mingus Union High School with the girls in my last years of my coaching, and we took Mingus all the way to the finals and the state championship to the Final Four. with girls that, you know, back to the days, my days, when Jim said, you guys are as good as anybody. You're not just hillbillies, or you're just as good as anybody. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you're not. And that's, so, when I've helped won 5 state junior high state championships. I've had good runners, trained good runners, like Mark Marquez during his junior high days, even ran in China against all those Chinese, beat a state champion in the mile, and a lot of good boys. A lot of good boys.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to mention the fact that we are at the T.F. Miller Building, which has just been acquired through Drake Meinke of the Copper Museum here. And we thank him for allowing us to use the building.